Hello, I'm John Bachman, and welcome to Newsmax Now. We'll get to all those stories in just a moment, but we begin tonight with this major decision by the Justice Department to reinstate the federal death penalty. The DOJ says the decision was made related to 5 death row inmates convicted of murdering the most vulnerable in society, including children and the elderly. In a statement, Attorney General William Barr said, quote, "The Justice Department upholds the rule of law, and we owe it to the victims and their families to carry forward the sentence imposed by our justice system." In response to the directive, the Federal Bureau of Prisons has now scheduled the executions of 5 individuals. Those executions will start in December of 2019 and continue through January of 2020. The last time there was a federal execution was 16 years ago in 2003. And a total of just 4 federal inmates have been executed in the last 55 years. That includes Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh. Also, according to a new Pew Research Center survey, here's how America feels about the death penalty. You can see the trends from 1996 to 2008 there. Last year, though, 54% of Americans said they favor the death penalty for people convicted of murder, while 39% opposed it. In 2007, 64% favored it and 29% opposed it. Joining us now to weigh in on this, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and Newsmax contributor, Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, great to see you again. And I know we have the AG's statement on the rule of law, but why do you think the Trump administration picked today to hand down this order?
Look, I have been a lifelong opponent of the death penalty. I wrote to the Israeli government asking them not to impose the death penalty on Eichmann. I started my campaign against the death penalty when I was like 13 years old, and the Rosenbergs were being subject to execution. I wrote the draft of the Supreme Court decision that initially led to the striking down of the death penalty as unconstitutional. So this is not a good day for an approach that I have been taking now for 65 years. Why the president or the Justice Department would pick today, I don't know. They're clever to pick the most heinous crimes, but we know that the death penalty is not reserved for the most heinous of crimes. It's reserved for people who are poor, who didn't have good lawyers. I've never lost a client to the death penalty. No good lawyer I know has ever lost a client to the death penalty. Mostly it's a penalty for being very poor, very unpopular, and having a range of other factors. Sometimes the racial component matters, but I don't think we're able to administer the death penalty fairly in the United States today.
Yeah. When it comes to state death penalties, I think the stats say 66 or 67% of those executed are minorities. It does unfairly impact those of a lower socioeconomic background. Also, mental health has come into play a lot too to this. There have been cases of people who have, had a diminished mental capacity who have been put to death.
That's right. Look,
again,
the person was my friend Bill Clinton. When he was running for president, he took a day off of his campaigning to go back to Arkansas to preside over the death penalty of a man who didn't even know he was being executed. He asked what he was going to have for breakfast the next day. Half of his brain had been shot away in a shootout with police. And so, Democrats ran on the death penalty. It's very hard to find a candidate who doesn't run in support of the death penalty. Even John Kerry, who was a lifelong opponent of the death penalty, when he ran for president, said, well, he changed his mind. Now he supports it for terrorists. So it's politically popular still to support the death penalty, but we just haven't proved our ability to do it fairly. You talk about the racial component. It's not only who is on death row, but you're much more likely to get the death penalty if you kill a white person than if you kill a black person. And that's also very unfair.
The other thing I was confused by this is because it kind of overshadows and cancels out a lot of President Trump's talking points about everything he's done on criminal justice reform, and that has been a big selling point for him, especially with his outreach to the minority community.
And he has done a very good job. I have to tell you that the Step Act was terrific. I think that some of the commutations he has done involving a black woman who was a courier for drugs, involving a rabbi in Brooklyn who had gotten an excessive sentence. I think he's done a good job in trying to moderate some of the excesses of criminal justice. I'm not sure this is his policy or the Justice Department's policy, but I don't think it's going to make America any safer.
Yeah, and there, you can look at the statistics. There's proof that this is not a deterrent for crime. It is. Kind of crazy, too, and ironic when you look at Jay Sekulow, who is the president's own attorney. He's one of the conservatives on record as being against the death penalty. There are a few of them out there. And especially some pro-life people who are very much against the death penalty. It's a confusing, somewhat surprising decision by the Justice Department today. That's why I wanted to have you on, Professor Dershowitz. Thank you for your insight. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest-growing news channel. Newsmax TV is now available for free on your smartphone. Just go to your iPhone or Android store and download the free Newsmax TV app. Then you can watch free TV news with an American spin anytime, anywhere in the world. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.